There's a very common like bait mentality is the idea that you should like the idea of a one-to-one very direct counter. Like you might think, okay, against Karma Ezreal, I should kill the Karma, or against Demacia, I should pop the barrier. In reality, the way you should be countering those is to just kill them faster and try to disable their tools, not by countering them, but by nullifying them before they even exist. It's kind of like how in Terminator 2, they go back in time to kill the guy when he was a baby. You want to do it like that. You don't want to let him develop into a threat. It's not about like countering something that gets to that point. It's about stopping it from ever happening. That's a very, very common way you have to think about the game. And it's not only true in aggro decks too, because there's a lot of mid-range decks that have to adopt the same approach, right? This deck is inconsistent versus every matchup. Really? I wouldn't say that. I can't keep either of these, right? You just have to try to draw into them later. Karma Ezreal. God, could I keep Crowd Favorite? I don't think so. I don't think I can keep anything here. I don't know, Brood Awakening's pretty good. It gets like hard countered by both Deny and Static Shock. I don't know. I think I just need to be drawing into these later. But yeah, this is a terrible spot for Prankster. She's gonna be kind of your top end win condition, bit of a stabilizer. She feels fine when she gets removed. So she's sort of a replacement for like Arachnoid Host and Decimate, and even Crowd Favorite, although Crowd Favorite isn't flexible. He's kind of like the automatic slot in. The thing is, like, the deck operates under the fundamental idea of Swarm plus Payoff, right? Enabler plus Payoff. That's how every deck works. And the Payoff is Crowd Favorite, but you want to run more than 3 Crowd Favorites, which is going to send you into some bad versions of Crowd Favorite. And the bad versions of Crowd Favorite are Prankster, Host, Battlecaster's also in the deck. Battlecaster and Crowd Favorite are the 2 Swarm Payoffs that are locked in, right? So after that, the decision is, what are the rest of the Swarm slots, right? What else is there? Battlecaster gets a little cleaned up by Thermo and Mystic here. Mystic can always hit, but Thermo uniquely hits right now. And I can devalue Thermo by playing the House Spider, I think. I don't mind just developing into him on 4, I think. But yeah, that's kind of all we're doing here. We're just deciding what's the best, worst version of Crowd Favorite. And it could be Prankster, it could be Arachnoid Host, or it could be Decisive Maneuver. Even Brothers Bond is kind of in that camp, because it's not an auto like Battlecaster. So now I've got a spot where I can play Battlecaster without developing into anything scary. I could also open Prankster. Prankster is kind of off curve here, but it does beat a lot of plays like Static Shock. Whereas like Battlecaster into Static Shock feels really bad. Static Shock and Mystic Shot are like 2 things where Prankster is already ahead of Battlecaster. Nah, not Mystic Shot, just Static. I'm afraid enough of Static. Can we beat a Static if he plays it? I think I can beat a Static. I think I actually play Prankster here. I think it's too important to make sure that I have a good game against Static. Static's an auto keep in this matchup. I think. Yeah, it's gotta be. In Karma Ezreal, it's gotta be an auto keep in this matchup. It's kind of the scariest threat, and as a favored matchup, I want to respect the scary threats. You don't take risks when you're a bit more favored. Our start isn't necessarily favored, but I think the matchup is enough, I would say. This is fine. I'll try this. I mean, if this doesn't end up good, then Prankster is definitely bad. She's given me an option that is not super relevant here. But the problem with Prankster is what you get over Decisive Maneuver is the ability to sometimes play her a little earlier. Because you do sometimes want to play her a little earlier. Not always, but sometimes. And the problem is you're not really getting like too much out of that. So, I mean, we're getting some damage direct to face. The vulnerability of Prankster. The reason that the vulnerability of Prankster is Challenger instead of anything else, it's kind of weird. It can't really make a difference unless I'm like top decking Crowd Favorite and I want to keep itself high. But yeah, Challenger counters Prankster because they're trading like they're punishing the fact that she has 0 attack. and they're not really getting value on the trade. But when you like Get Excited Prankster, Get Excited is always a value card, and you can't abuse her 0 attack stat line with Get Excited. It's just trading 3 mana for 3 mana discard. I don't mind when she gets removed by spells. What I do mind is when she gets removed by Challenger and the 0 attack gets punished. That's low value, and that's the weakness of Prankster. Like, if this forces out a Get Excited on Prankster, I'm really happy. That's great. A 3 mana card that does a bit of damage and then forces to Get Excited is high value. That's like top of what any 3 mana card could aspire to. 3 damage. I say 3 damage. It's a bit less than that because, of course, this is quite interesting. He's not looking for an attack here. I want to play Battlecaster. Wow, this is kind of weird. I don't think he's going to spend this mana, which means if he has Thermo Beam, oddly enough, if I play Pet and then if I play Battlecaster, I actually get punished by Thermo Beam because then I'll have 1 empty slot and both of my hand will be +2 units. And I don't think he's going to spend this mana no matter what. Even if I play House Spider, he's not going to Thermo Beam that, I don't think. So I think I have to play Battlecaster first because then at least if he Thermo Beams it, I can at least have a full board on the attack without sacrificing slots. Because we can't bait out this 2 mana. If he doesn't have Thermo Beam, he's not going to use it. The only question is, if I played House Spider and fill up a board, would you Thermo Beam the House Spider? I think a good player wouldn't. I think that would be insane because they would just be freeing up a board slot when I have mana on a non-relevant target. So to respect the Thermo Beam, I have to play into it, which is a little weird, but specific to my hand state. So now I can make a full board, which is pretty important. House Spider is kind of devalued here because he always has the Chungus blocker, so I think I'll actually take the Crawling Sensation. There's a consideration to not play anything at all, actually. And develop into the attack. They don't really play much at slow that punishes you. My version runs like 1 Cask Salesman. Open attacking isn't great. Yeah, I actually have to just pass here, I think. Or maybe just play Pet. Because if I draw a Crowd Favorite... Is Crowd Favorite the only draw? No. Skitterer or Host. Crowd Favorite, Skitterer, and Host. So I think I'll just play Pet here. Because all of those draws would reward Pet here. Actually, that's probably not true. Because if I draw something else... If I draw like a spell, if I draw like Vision, I want to House Spider into Vision. I don't think I need action-based tempo at all. I don't think giving him options here will matter. What I think will matter instead is locking myself out of options. It's like giving him actions I don't think affects very much here. Against that deck, it's like most of what he wants to play is at fast speed. It's just use Cask Salesman and Navori Highwayman if he runs my version. I don't think versions that aren't mine are running either of those cards. So we got the Crowd Favorite. Second Thermo Beam is obviously a huge punish here. I don't think there's much I can do about that, but I mean, we're still trading up 4 mana to 6, so I wouldn't necessarily hate the second Thermo Beam. Now, we did leave the Chump Wump alive compared to the Shadow Assassin, and if that was going to be the answer to Crowd Favorite, then that could be a little bit of a punish, because obviously that's kind of the one situation where its 4 attack is able to find value. Looks like we can recrowd here pretty easily, though. So now, I'm suddenly looking at the open attack turns. Naturally, we have to be looking at the open attack turns, because it's the Yoan turns. He's going to be at 8 mana on the next attack, which means we always have to open attack. I think this deck does want a bit more spells. It's just like, counting all the situations, I think there's just too many situations where I'll be forced to take some open attacks and need some fast speed options. I really like 3 Vision a lot. I love 3 Vision. It's very flexible, but I might go to 2 Decisive Maneuver, or I might add an extra Brothers Bond. Like anything other than this hand would feel good. And I think those are the problems with Arachnoid Host and Phantom Prankster, which is outside of the 4 Flex, Swarm, Payoff cards, the other 2 being Brothers Bond and Decisive Maneuver. Those 2 are at slow speed. I think you might just need your Swarm Payoff to always be at fast speed, because Swarm Payoff at slow speed has to be played the turn before. It's a little weird. I mean, we're gonna have 1 more attack. His deck can't really pop until like turn 10, right? So we're always gonna have 1 more attack here, which is quite nice. I mean, I probably Brood Awakening these spiders, right? Oh, that's sick. Great. Works for me, bud. That's usually a second deny that you'd take that, but I'm fine with that either way. So it's like House Spider into Crowd Favorite into Brood. Because he denied it, we actually don't have enough mana for Brood. But I think that's fine. Maybe I was supposed to play House Spider first. He would have denied the Brood instead. I didn't really expect him to deny the Crawling Sensation. The only thing that matters is we get our final open attack on 10. After 10, we're dead. Like, he's gonna blow us up. And we want to take the Brood on this turn. I'm kind of thinking he might have a second deny. On a 2-card hand. Yeah, this is my last chance to Brood. We've got one last open attack. It is overall low odds. So, our final open attack. We're going to have to see if it can do enough here. We've got a board replacement for that unit. And then you're just looking for the top deck on... I would say Decisive Maneuver is the nuts here, because it's unlikely his final card is going to be Deny. But, I mean, I'd settle for a Vision. I'd settle for anything at fast speed, basically. Honestly, with the sound effects disabled, you can really start appreciating a lot more of the little music here and there. Maybe Decisive Maneuver is just the 3 of. I don't know. How many Decisive Maneuver were you running 209? The play around on positioning is Spirit's Refuge. I mean, we have no special tricks in hand. It's just like Crowd Favorite at the start, Draven at the end is the way to play around Spirit's Refuge, I guess. If he's got a hand, he's good. He's digging. I mean, the 4 random cards, you know, that could get him something. Like 1 Will is good here, right? 1 Spirit's Refuge is maybe good here. Static Shock does a lot for 4 mana. I think he'll have an answer. I think he'll be good enough. I mean, we've got 1 to push off Axe, but that's not really great. You run 1. I think Decisive Maneuver might actually just be a really good card. I don't know. It feels bad into Deny, but it could actually just be super necessary. Yeah, I mean, he's just looking at some reasonably bad options then. Wow. I mean, it can't matter, right? It can't matter. It's like, we've got it or we don't. Presumably he doesn't have the 1 here. I mean, the way he's playing, the way, like, usually you vomit out cards like that when you know you can't win, and when you're trying to show your opponent you just got bad RNG. He got like Rising Spells and Sown Seeds. So yeah, that feels pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I'm liking the direction this deck is taking. I do think that Prankster might just have to be disqualified. It's like, it really reduces your top deck value. It is also something that takes a board slot. That's another thing about Prankster and Host. Not only are they slow speed, but they can only be used when your board has 5 units and not 6. Whereas like Decisive Maneuver, Vision, and even Brothers Bond, which is a Swarm payoff, keep in mind, even Brothers Bond can be used when your board is full. So that brings us to our flex slots. Our flex slots are narrowing. Let's check it out. 1 Prankster and 1 Vile Feast. Apart from those slots, I feel pretty good. I'm kind of liking Brothers Bond at 2. Not 100% sure about that. And I'm liking Vision and Draven both at 3 in my opinion. New champs seem to be too niche. I do sort of agree. I think they're both not going to be terrible, but I do think they're both hard to level up. And I do like the idea of champs that you can play a lot more towards like leveling them up rather than champs you're running for some amount of just like low synergy value, which is like, I think the best way to run Sejuani is to just slot her into an Ashe deck and not try to level her up. Her level up is so hard. Just like, the more I think about it, the harder it gets. And I've thought about it a good bit now, for hours. So it's been hard for hours. Skitterer, Saboteur, Pet. Yeah, I'll cut Skitterer. Keep the 1s. The one issue with Maneuver is drawing 2 of them feels really bad. You are gonna have a hard time using both. Now in card games, there's this thing where it's like, you know, you have to juggle a lot of people, I think like the new card game perspective is like, if it feels bad drawing 2, then just run 1. And I think that's going to be true in a lot of circumstances, but probably not every circumstance. The thing is, if drawing 1 of them is important enough, then you want to run 2 so that, you know, it feels good. You get the good feeling when you draw 1. Like your win percentage is boosted enough when you draw 1 more often. And yeah, sometimes you'll draw 2, but you'll draw 1 more often with a 2 of than a 1 of. Like by quite a bit. This deck doesn't really have built-in card draw either. What are you thinking about here? What are you thinking about here? Is that like Mystic Shot plus Thermo? Or something like that? That's like Mystic Shot plus Thermo, or maybe something with Vile Feast. Wow. Vision for 1 damage. That doesn't feel good. I will say this is kind of a bad matchup. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe Brood does just have to be a 3 of. I mean, it's certainly not impossible. We have a hard time curving this turn. Brood plus Draven is a little under. I mean, Brood here plays into like Static. But that's about it. If I Brood, I'm going to 5 plus 2, which gives me Crowd Favorite plus Vision. I can't do Crowd plus Draven because it's spell mana. If I Draven now, then I can't do... I mean, I need the Crowd Favorite. I can't play Draven right now, right? I have to just play Brood. Like, it's set in stone, I think, at this point. Does Juwani not need to be on the board to level? Yeah. But she's still hard to level. Like, I think she might seem kind of easy, depending on how you look at it, but she's really hard to level, guys. Like, she's gonna be slow to level. Like, when she levels, it'll be on, like, turn 7 or 8, when it might not matter. And she's not, like, inherently super hard to kill as a card. I don't know. Maybe you'll have some Frostbites to protect her, depending on the list you're in. So the question is, how much do you give up by giving him an action here? If I play Pet, a good player would take a Static or a Withering Wail and deny my Crowd Favorite. Whereas Crowd Favorite does max out on size probably by playing him right now. The question is, do you assume... You have to ask yourself, if he has a Static or a Withering Wail, do I lose here no matter what? I think the answer to that question is yes. I think I need to assume he's on a bad hand. So I think I have to play Pet. We tend to call this like playing for a win condition. Effectively, when you're behind, you have to take risks. We'll see. I think that's saying he doesn't have Whale or Static Shock, personally. I mean, he might, but I think a good player would always Static or Whale that. It's a hard represent for Crowd Favorite that you can just cuck out. You're not getting a better Whale there. There's not really a punish to Whaling. Maybe second Brood Awakening, I guess, could be a punish to Wailing early. Because I did have exactly 6 mana. I wouldn't play a Precious Pet into a second Brood Awakening, though. Yeah, looks like he didn't have the other forms of removal here. Interesting. Draven can sort of turn on a bit of a Thermo Beam here, but the thing is, even if Draven dies, we still have Axon Vision. And Thermo Beam gets countered by Crawling Sensation. So, I mean, we have a bit of an attack. My Crawling Sensation actually feels kind of like doo-doo right now. If this is a punish for Crawling Sensation. If this was like even another 1-drop, that would be a big difference maker here. So the question is, do you develop into this? So you always have to ask yourself, can we beat Ruination? We actually kind of can, right? I don't think he can Ruinate us when we have 9 mana floating. And like, Crawling plus Decisive plus Vision is what, 8? I think it's too hard for him to Ruinate there. We get a bit of an extra attacker. Looks good. I don't know. We didn't have lethal, right? Crawling plus Decisive. Oh, can you not even cast Decisive if they don't have a card? or will it let you cast it? I don't actually know that. That's interesting. So now we need to be looking at Grasp. Grasp is going to be the tool to break. Now, there's a couple things going on here. We're going to use Decisive Maneuver on the blocker to crowd favorite, because when a unit is taken out of combat after the designation of the block, it stops the attack. You think about it like leaving behind a 0/0 blocker, but against Overwhelm, it doesn't stop shit. So Decisive Maneuver has a combo point with crowd favorite, and even Might for that reason. You could make an argument for Might being in the deck. Might is, I don't know how I feel about Might. So he's looking to stabilize this board. He's thinking about, basically we want to give him the least options possible off of this play. The only way we can re-threaten lethal, I think, is Decisive Maneuver though. And I don't think that gives him crazy reactivity. I don't know. He has a hard time killing crowd favorite. Grasp plus shot. He's used 1 shot? No, he's used 2. Grasp plus get excited. I mean, Decisive Maneuver doesn't really get better, even if he has an answer. It's the only way to force him to do something here. And that can allow me to like use my spinning axe with a bit more information. You want to basically force an action to him so that you can get a better choice on your action and give him a worse choice on his, right? Because not only am I playing with more information, but his action is playing for less. So usually what he'll do here is he'll think about maybe using like, if he has Grasp Excited or Grasp Mystic, 3rd Mystic shot, it's usually Grasp something. But he's thinking about using Grasp on my 2/1 now. And if he grasps this 2/1, then we can use Spinning Axe on crowd favorite, right? That's the idea. Because we'll have perfect lethal by doing that and force him to have a second answer. So he's doing the get excited on the precious pet, and now we can take the spinning axe on the vision. We're just going to go ahead and buff this. At 5 mana, you can't really answer it. And that should give us putting him to -1. And at 5 mana, I think he needs a grasp at this point, which he would have used earlier, so we're good. I'm stuck in top 500. Any way to break the curse aside from hard grinding? Well, it really depends on a case-by-case basis. I don't know. So far, whenever you play Decisive Maneuver, the game ended. Seems like the perfect finisher. I really like it. I really do like it. It's kind of always felt good.